I found a way to escape homelessness and stay clean, and I'm here to share my journey with you. Escaping homelessness without falling into addiction is a journey that's often overlooked, yet it's one of the most important ones we can take. It's a journey that requires resilience, determination, and a lot of hard work, but it's a journey that is definitely worth it because it allows us to rebuild our lives and create a brighter future for ourselves. One of the main reasons why this journey is so important is that homelessness and addiction often go hand in hand. When we're on the streets, we're more vulnerable to addiction and vice versa. It's a vicious cycle that's hard to break, but it's not impossible. With the right mindset and the right support, we can overcome both homelessness and addiction and start anew. My journey to escaping homelessness without addiction was not an easy one, but it's a necessary one. It's a journey that requires us to confront our demons, to face our fears, and to push ourselves to the limit. But it's a journey that's worth it because it allows us to rediscover ourselves and find our purpose in life. Homelessness can be a dehumanizing experience, but it's not a definitive one. We can get back on our feet, we can rebuild our lives, we can create a better future for ourselves. Many people experiencing homelessness face numerous challenges, including the risk of addiction and the stigma attached to it. They often feel like they've hit rock bottom, like they've lost their dignity and their sense of self-worth. But the truth is, homelessness is not a definition of who we are as people. We are not our circumstances, we are not our past, and we are not our addiction. When we're homeless, we're more likely to turn to substances as a way to cope with the emotional pain, the trauma, and the stress of living on the streets. But addiction only makes things worse. It only perpetuates the cycle of homelessness and makes it harder for us to get back on our feet. The stigma attached to homelessness and addiction is another major obstacle that we face. We're often judged, we're often ostracized, and we're often treated like we're less than human. But the truth is, we are not our addiction, we are not our homelessness, and we are not our circumstances. We are human beings deserving of love and care and compassion. My story begins with a work accident. I was given a 10-day supply of Xanax and was back in 5 days asking for more. This was one of the rare times the system was there to benefit me in a critical moment. Before that, my uncle tried to jumpstart me on methamphetamine. If it wasn't for my mom threatening to tell my grandma, I would have never stopped. I was lucky to only be a few weeks in instead of years later. These key moments for me would shape my future in homelessness, and here's how. Before we get into today's video, I just want to remind you guys that I am supported through crowdfunding. All that stuff can be found down in the description, from memberships to affiliate links and the tip jar. Anything that you do does help. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the video. With my mother doing what she did and the doctor doing what they did, it was an opportunity for me to have a wake-up call. I was lucky at that point in time in my life to where I was aware enough of things that were going on, and I looked into it more. One of the things that my mom did to kind of help me understand a lot of the risks and consequences of my actions was, she being a CNA and my grandma being a private nurse, they had enough medical literature. They showed me all the different things that go on when you try each type of drug, and it's actually in their manuals and all that other stuff. And so I got to sit there and read all the different side effects, the long-term consequences and stuff like that. Me being me, I looked at it and I said, well, I don't want to deal with all of those long-term consequences. I don't want to lose my teeth to methamphetamine. I don't want to shrivel up like on heroin. None of these drugs are going to be good for me. And not only did I understand the side effects, but I also understood them. But it didn't mean that I wouldn't experiment. And so over my years of homelessness, yes, I have experimented. I experimented with crack. I've experimented with cocaine. I have experimented with shrooms and acid and all those different things. But there comes a point when you really have to have enough self-awareness about yourself and what it is that you are, what it is that you want. This was my own personal story of growth just over the years, which is why I felt comfortable dabbling into it. Such as I knew by talking to people that were in their addiction what crack was like. And so I set up an instance where I would try it and I would be on a 3-day drive so I wouldn't be tempted to be able to, give in to the withdrawals. But I also had to have a lot of self-control to be able to get through that. And that in itself was still a wake-up call. It's like, you may think that you're stronger than the drug, but sometimes the drug could be stronger than you. And if you're not pig-headed and stubborn enough to sit there and go no, then you may very well lose. And most people are not that way. I am lucky just because of my upbringing that made me really, hard-headed. And so it is very rare that I will ever give in to anything. I'm willing to sacrifice all to be able to accomplish my goal. And it's just the way I was raised. And so when I look at, when I started, experimenting with things along the way, because I could have tried heroin, but I knew the one thing with heroin, once you try it, no. And now even being a YouTuber and having all these years off and on, 25 years chronically homeless, I've never developed an addiction. I have not developed a mental health issue. I was wrongly diagnosed for 25 years. And then also, I haven't developed a major criminal record either. Like, I could still go back and be employable. Like, I still have some things that I can't do just because of the way a charge was done. But for the most part, I can still go get a job. I can still go do things and become a productive member of society. And that's another thing that you got to realize is that, when you become homeless, you're homeless, but it's only for a short period of time. And one of the things that always, gave me pause before I would even consider trying something is, okay, is this going to interfere with me getting off the streets? Am I going to have to deal with the addiction issue? Or am I going to, is it going to create other issues like along the way, like such as heroin, what it does to your body, or methamphetamine, what it does to your body. Now, I've come into other issues through other health issues, but at least I can say that it's not because of drugs. It's because of me not taking care of my body as well as I should have. But for the most part, I had a Rothschild once tell me, you have two choices in life. You either do the drug or the drug does you. And he says, most people let the drug do them. Very few people do the drug. You should probably, if you're going to do something, do the drug. And so, I had all these different influences, but I also had the wherewithal to know that I'm experimenting, I'm playing around. If I decide that I like it, I have to ask myself, am I willing to deal with the consequences? Because, there might be something out there that I like. And if am I willing to put forth like this much money for it? I mean, you got to really think of the cause and effect and the consequences. And when you actually take a logical, well-reasoned, well-thought-out look at the whole process, you will talk yourself out of most of the drugs, because you either don't want to deal with the side effects long term, because when you get off the streets, do you want to have a butt in the front? Also, do you want to be called snaggletooth? Also, do you want to have to deal with the criminal record that comes along with that? Do you want to deal with the long-term health effects that comes to just outside of your teeth, such as like losing some of your bone density or other things like that? You start to sit there and go, why would I ever want to do that to myself? Okay, which is why, some people say, well, you still smoke weed. Why is it that you smoke weed, but yet you say that you're not addicted? Because weed, if you go and you look at the scientific facts, you have to smoke a lot in order to get a physical addiction. So the only possible addiction is a psychological addiction. But you're only going to get a psychological addiction if you ain't got yourself right up here, okay? And that sometimes we have ourselves right and we think we got ourselves right, and then all of a sudden life throws us a curveball and we realize that we're not. But at the same time, I could walk away from it or I could not do it. Now, I have health reasons why I use it, but for the most part, I also, it's twofold for me, okay? Because I don't like alcohol. I don't want to deal with what it does to my liver and what it does to my stomach and all the other stuff that it does to your body. If you're looking at something that's going to do the least amount of damage, it's going to be the healthiest for you. It's not, you go and you find something, because out here, you're not going to have credibility if you're not at least doing something or have some reason, whether it be pills or whether it be white dope or whether it be being a drunk or whether it be being a stoner. you know, if you're not doing something, you don't get credibility. So in a way that kind of plays out here for me as far as being able to blend in. But again, if I need to walk away from it, and I have, when I got married, I walked away from it for about 4 years. Okay, didn't have a problem with it. I realized that, you know, I miss being able to have something because I didn't even drink during that period of time. Or if I did, I was drinking to escape instead of drinking for pleasure, and that's not a good way to live. You know, and so this is just my story, my advice, how I've been able to do it, what influences I've had, and just all the different things that have worked in my life to bring me to this point. And now I'm to a point where I am proud of myself, because it could be a lot worse. I could be a white doper. I could be a drunk. You know, I could be a pill popper. I could be a repeat criminal. I could be a lot of stuff. I could have a much worse life than I did, and a lot of it has to do with not only the influences of the people in my life that at very, very pivotal moments were able to step up and go, hey, you know, I don't like you doing this, okay? Or, you know, say, hey, take a look at it from this point of view. And having those people that didn't just sit there and browbeat me, because my mom was like, hey, if you, whatever drug you want to do, I know you're going to experiment, but I want you to come do it with me. It's how I can make sure that you're going to stay safe. Anything happens to you, I'm going to be right there. And you know what? To a lot of people, they say that's bad, but quite frankly, it worked out in my favor, because that was, if I didn't have that safety net, I would have gotten into methamphetamine, and I would have been a long-term addict over time. I know I would have been. So at that stage in my life, I wasn't really balanced. And so to have that, I would have had a completely different outcome. So you got to really look at the whole picture. You got to be able to have a positive influence and push somebody in the right direction. You can't browbeat them, force them, or bribe them, but you can definitely, just like my mom said, if you don't do this, I'm gonna let your grandma know. And I was more ashamed of what my grandma would think of me, that I made sure I said, I'm good, I'm done, I'm over it. You know, that was a pivotal moment for me. So